How are you guys? Good. It sounds like you're not caffeinated enough. How are you guys? Oh, come on. My 2-year-old can do better than that. How are you guys? Okay. I'll check again after lunch. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be hosting this panel of lovely women. We're going to talk about all things content. It'll include, we'll talk a bit about strategy, developing content, budgets versus investments, working with an agency, working with third parties, influencers. There's a lot to cover. So be sure you're taking notes or tweeting, however you guys want to do that. We love it. So kicking things off, I'm going to let each, Rubina's done a great job introducing everyone, but I want to let each of the panelists do a bit of an introduction of themselves and just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. Nice to be here. My paid job is to oversee the running of the Innamincka Hotel. Innamincka Hotel's a little pub way up in the far northeast of South Australia. I don't live there all the time. I spend a little bit of time here in Adelaide, but it's certainly what grounds me is when I'm at Innamincka. The other things that I'm involved with are the Flinders Rangers and Outback Tourism organisation, and the Outback Loop travel itinerary, which is sort of something that was just an idea I had about 25 years ago, that we needed to be creating itineraries to help people understand how to drive and travel in the Outback. So that's the Outback Loop, and just recently I've been very much involved in a marketing campaign called the Aussie Travel Code, which seeks to promote responsible tourism in South Australia. So that's the biggie for me at the moment. There's really thinking about how we can do tourism better. That's a little bit about me.
Thanks. Thanks for having me here today. My name's Louise. I work with the Sea-Link Travel Group in Adelaide here, and I've been there for just over 4 years now, so creating online content for all of their different channels. And so I predominantly work with the Sea-Link Kangaroo Island brand, so I'm promoting the ferry travel to Kangaroo Island, tours and charters. And then we have a very elegant paddle wheeler, the PS Murray Princess, that travels on the Murray River, and it's beautiful. So I'm really creating content for a lot of different demographics, and trying to capture people and talk to people at different stages of their travel and their purchase journey as well. So I myself have a really keen interest in storytelling, and I do a lot of influencer marketing in my role, so work with a lot of different travel influencers and photographers to tell some great stories, and I think that really helps us tell some unique and inspiring perspectives. Thanks.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Emma Dignon. I am one of the OG Adelaide bloggers. I'm the Iconic Blonde on Instagram. I also have an online blog where I write. Same with Louise. I love storytelling. I love crafting brands. And I created it about 6 years ago now because I wanted to have a reason to stand out in the crowd when I was trying to find a job, which did eventually happen, thank God. I moved into public relations, where I did a few national campaigns with Rhetoric PR. I've done a few things here and there. I'm contracting for some great PRs, including working within the Vogue Festival and Tasting Australia. Most recently, I was at Pernod Ricard in the wine industry, alcohol industry. You might know them better as the owner of Jacob's Creek. So in the last 2 years when I was there, it was super easy. We had COVID, we had bushfires, we had the worst Sauv Blanc vintage of all time, and we had China tariffs. And then now I'm at UniSA, luckily. I can sleep now. I'm at UniSA's Innovation and Collaboration Centre. So we focus on startups and space and high tech and social enterprise, which is really exciting and fun. But today I'm going to try and bring a little bit of a viewpoint into the mix of creating content of my own, as that's something that I've done over the past few years.
Thanks, guys. All right, we will jump in. Let's start with strategy. So, just like you wouldn't build a house without a plan, or you like my notes here? Have a company without a mission statement. it's really important, I think, when you're thinking about content creation, to start with a strategy. So one of the first things I want to ask you guys is, can you tell us a bit about your plans around content creation when it comes to this? Do you start with a strategy document, which I think is a very traditional thing to do, or is it all about brainstorming with your team? Do your businesses or brands you work with kind of go, oh, we'll do it for each campaign? Just some insight around that would be fantastic.
Well, with us, it's just a bit of both. So I'm going to talk today really from an operator perspective, and I can tell you right now that marketing is not my skill. I know my product, but I'm not a marketer. I'm not a blogger. I am a storyteller because I have to be in hospitality. But I would not be sitting here today if I wasn't wasn't surrounded by really good people to help me to get what I want. But before I can advise them, I have to have a business plan. So pretty much our content is driven by our business plan and the strategies that we've got within that business plan to help us get to where we want to go. So without that basis, then any creative, be it a photographer or a videographer or an agency, can't really get any outcomes. So I guess that's my big message today. I'm a little bit intimidated by clever people like you guys who do all this stuff online. It's not really my gig, and if anyone's had a little bit of a look at me online, you don't see much about me, but if you look at the Innamincka Hotel, or you look at the Outback Loop, or you look at the Aussie Travel Code, you'll see a lot of content there, but that content's got to have come from someone with the vision. So that's where I come from. So I hope I've answered that question. Yep.
So for me, I am writing a lot of content myself, and then we kind of get people around our business to kind of help us out with that as well. So we've got some tour guides who are kind of like out, on the island every day, like chasing wildlife and seeing all the really cool stuff. So we get a few of those guys to help us out as well. From a strategy perspective, it's very, I think strategy is really important. So you have to have like a clear direction of where you're going, and I guess what your tone of voice and your key messages and all of that. So definitely start with the strategy document, and then might do a bit of campaign planning and a bit of ad hoc as well. Yeah, definitely.
So just being able to have that flexibility to have a bit of movement in your strategy?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I guess following on from what we were saying before about UGC, I guess with travel, there's just so much inspiring content that people who are out on holidays and are capturing, and it's really great to be able to share that as well. Yep.
Awesome, I agree. I think that strategy is super important. We know that when it comes to marketing strategy, it is not a bow and arrow. You don't just shoot it and then hope that it lands in the right location. It's more like a guided missile. You kind of know where you want to be having it head, but then you're guiding it along the way as well. I think that when you are developing, even if it is a mission statement or a vision or key messages, then it's going to allow you to understand how you want to be fitting into conversations. I am absolutely obsessed with the Tick-Tock right now, and I have been for a while. And when it comes to these upcoming trends and what's going on, it is good to have a strategy to understand if your brand fits in to what is currently taking place within that space. Knowing when you are bringing in agencies, etc., and helping people understand your brand, knowing what you stand for and what you want to be a part of is super important. That being said, I think for some brands, it is a good idea to have it all mapped out and know what kind of tactics and implementation techniques you want to be working in as well.
Louise, question for you. So when you create these strategies, these documents, I know you work with people like on Kangaroo Island. How much of that do you share with them? Like if you are writing a whole strategy document, is it, they need to see it? Or do you just pull out key highlights
We might go through it probably about once a year, but yeah, definitely just having a look at the key highlights, like the perhaps different campaigns or products we're looking at promoting. I guess a lot of our content is around seasonality, so I guess it's very cold over on Kangaroo Island at the moment, and yes, you really do need to rug up. But there are also some incredible wildlife experiences. You've got echidna trains running around, and all those warm and fuzzy wildlife experiences that are really nice.
Okay. Obviously, a lot has happened in the last 18 months. It's been super easy for everyone. But I want to know, of everything that's happened, obviously bushfires, COVID, all of that, is there anything in your strategy that's been hard to stick to, or anything that you go, this is actually going to be a permanent part of our strategy going forward?
I think that you can, that it's pretty hopeless trying to plan things too far ahead, because even as we're sitting here today, things are changing here in South Australia. So that's slightly unnerving for someone like me who's a bit of a control freak, and I like to know exactly where we're going and exactly what we're going to do, and we haven't been able to do that since March last year. But as far as content goes, there is some content I think that can stay for the Outback, because those sunsets, sunrises, vistas, vast open spaces, the actual beauty of the Outback is never ever going to go away. And so that sort of content, I would sit on that and keep pushing. I will be continuing to push that out, because it's something real that is the one constant that we can rely on at the moment. I guess for something like Aussie Travel Code, our content with that would be really appealing to people's idea of doing the right thing when they do get to travel again. So reinforcing some particular messaging about respect in the Outback, or not just the Outback, it can be any travel at all, really. Respect for where you're travelling, being the kind of traveller that you'd like to be in your own hometown. That's take on that.
Yeah, on top of that as well, in the last 18 months, a huge thing that I've had to reevaluate is KPIs, and going to my boss or manager and saying, hey, well, our socials or marketing campaigns haven't worked as well as the data that we are comparing it to from 2 years ago. Let's be realistic. A huge thing as well that I have changed, especially when I was at Pernod Ricard, using our social media and our marketing channels, our own channels, to put out educational information that isn't hot, it's not sexy, it's not selling anything, it's giving people information. When our brand homes closed, we had to let people know. When COVID was running rampant in New Zealand or in SA and everything was different all over the different brands that we were owning, we had to make sure that we were using our channels, as they were the first point of call for a lot of the people who were coming to find out about our information. They're not really going to go into our About Us page on the website. They're not going to go on and give us a call directly. They want to go on our social media and see if they can go get a glass of wine on a Saturday.
I just want to know, raising hands, how many of you guys go to Twitter as like the first point of if you have a question about a brand, or if Telstra's down? How many of you guys go to Twitter to see what's happening? Yeah? Oh, not as many as I thought. What about Facebook? Go to the brand's Facebook page? And what about their Instagram? All right. Oh, poor Twitter. How sad.
For me, it's definitely been about keeping up to date with all the messages, and about travel restrictions and just being flexible where I can. And it's good to see that a lot of people are going to those social media accounts, because they are very up to date. You can update them very regularly and put the latest information, and put links and things like that as well. So
yeah, I think one thing I've seen over the last 18 months is, there are times when businesses and brands kind of go, oh, social media, that's just going to sit over here, and we were going to deal with it at 4:30 in the afternoon tomorrow. But one thing it's shown us is that, like you guys, a lot of people do turn to the social brands, social accounts, to find out what's going on, and so it's kind of reprioritize this, social media is an important thing, and we need to pay attention. So it's been refreshing for me working with brands and businesses to see that. All right, so content creation. There's a lot that can be said about content creation, so we'll try to touch on as much as we can. If you guys do have any questions, there's a Slack channel, but we will be around during lunch, so be around during lunch, so be sure to hit them up for any questions. So obviously each business, each brand, each company creates content in a different way. What I'd like to know, or if you guys could tell us a bit about how your business goes about creating content. So obviously, Joe, you work with third parties. Do you have a set content creation in place? Do you give them liberties to take the reins on things? And you working with tourism operators, do you have guidelines set in place, those types of things? So anything around that you guys can share, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, content creation. For the work that I do, our content creation is pretty much always directed to our ideal customers, the people that love us. The Outback and regional Australia is an acquired taste. There is absolutely no point trying to sell dust, heat, flies and long lonely roads to people who would rather stay on the coast, on sealed roads and be able to go out to cafes every night, lunch, whatever. So that our content creation is driven at talking to the people who love us. However, our content creation is also it's also about appealing to people's emotions and to the idea that maybe one day they could do that. So the aspiring traveller, I guess. Our content comes from people who live and work in the Outback, the people who work for us, myself, and then I see it as my role to ensure that our agency knows everything that they need to know, put those posts together, even down to the point of using some of my quotes or some of our staff's quotes, or some things that I would think that aren't really interesting at all, our agency picks up on and says, that's great, and they grow with it. And that's why I have a very, very close connection with the agency that I work with. And that's why we've had great success, particularly in growing the Innamincka brand, and to a lesser extent, I guess, the Outback Loop branding, because that's been around for a little while. But particularly in Innamincka, I guess here I probably should just a little bit of history. I used to be one of the owners of the Birdsville Hotel, so I was really experienced in what bigger brands and more known and visible places could do with the power of social media. And Innamincka, of course, was Birdsville's little sister. So we had to start and work there and work on Innamincka's points of differences. So I don't have to worry about Birdsville, goodness, but working hard on Innamincka and working on that content from those things I brought up.
So working with your agency, and obviously you've got staff in Innamincka, what tools do you have in place? Do you guys have a Slack? Do you encourage that, that open communication? Because obviously you can email and text and things, but what have you found to be the most efficient way for your staff to get information back to the agency?
Slack's useful, Messenger's useful. Slack's probably the most useful if you need to get quite a lot of information across the miles fast. But generally speaking, I suppose we might use emails. Yes, Slack if you need to get something there fast, quick, it has to happen today because the poop is coming down, because it's rained and no one can get in or out. Or I guess the example I can use for Slack was Birdsville races. Things happen fast. We needed to get information out. It might be whether this is going back a couple of years, but we were, needing to get $5 notes to a particular area of the Birdsville Hotel. So we sent out a Slack message, which went all the way to Canada, that came back to let the people in Birdsville know that we needed $5 notes in the front bar. It worked. Slack works. It just depends on what how urgent your message is. For us, living in a remote and working with an agency and having your agency absolutely by your side, when something big's going down or when something's not going down at all and you need something to go down.
Can you tell we love Slack?
We really do. So in terms of myself working with tour operators to promote destinations, I find that if we try to give them as many tools as we can, it just makes it a little bit easier for them and a bit of direction as well. So at the moment we have an overseas road trip to Kangaroo Island going at the moment. And kind of just playing on that, everyone would love to go overseas right now, but they're not able to. And we give you, when you arrive on the island, a passport, and we're running a competition at the moment where we encourage our travellers and guests to take photos with their passport and post it at the locations that they really enjoyed on Kangaroo Island. So it's really a great way at the moment of getting the tour operators to talk to people about it and get them to take a photo and just gives us some different stuff to work with as well.
Quick question. How often do you get to go to Kangaroo Island?
Ooh, probably every few months, but yeah, it's good fun.
I will be your +1 anyway.
Perfect. Next car races.
Yeah, me too. So I'm very naughty because I'm a PR background, so I'm extremely reactive. I think the most I plan ahead, majority of the time, is just looking through media holidays and figuring out which ones that I can make the most of. But kind of like Will was saying with the user-generated content, it's that quite bespoke, not all too polished content, which I'm finding I'm leaning towards too when it comes to creating stuff, whether it's at the ICC and we're hosting an event and I'm snapping some cute pictures of kids playing with the new program that we just launched, or if it's me, as I mentioned, out at the bar with my friends, posting on my personal account. The Iconic Blonde itself is quite a brand where people can live vicariously through. So I might be in bed in my robe pretending that I'm at the bar, but that works quite well. I would say that from my top tips, if you are doing your own profile management, for example, if you are posting on LinkedIn or Instagram, before you even head out the door, to be padding out like the notes in your phone with all the relevant handles and the people and the hashtags, to make sure that you're spending as little time in the corner on your phone, like I usually do when I'm editing and filtering my photos, and then you can just copy and paste it and pop it in, post it, and you're good to go.
Oh, thanks, ladies. I want to follow that up with some best practices. I'd love for you guys to share best practices, Joe, especially with you, and you've touched on a few of them already, but if you have any more, working with an agency or a third party when you and your team are not the ones creating the content and publishing them to the social channels. And if you don't work with an agency, or I guess all of you kind of would work with, you are the third party, maybe some best practices on your end about, what can help you create, like, is it a brief, what's included in that to help you create some really great content. But I also want to know, on top of that, your favorite apps and technology. I'm always downloading stuff. So I think everyone here, we probably all have our favorite things, but we love hearing about new ones. So if you have any, please share.
Jen, I've got to just try to remember the beginning of that question now. Working with an agency? Yeah. Best practices working with an agency. Yeah, tips. Trust. Get to know them. Not every agency is going to work for you. Maybe you don't even want to work with an agency. Maybe you want to work with an aspiring individual. Doesn't really matter as long as I think, if you're an operator, as long as you're working with someone so that you're getting you're getting a third opinion other than your opinion and your staff's opinion, because most of us as operators, we're too close to our business, and if we didn't love our businesses, we wouldn't do our businesses. So having that third party, having an agency or significant other is like an insurance for your business, and it takes the worry out of making some decisions. If you've built trust in an agency and you come up against a big crunch of like, should I advertise here? Should I do this? Should I do that? You then have your agency to call upon to get advice. Just like you would go to a banker, your accountant or your lawyer, that's what your agency is and your for me. I guess it's different for everybody, but my success has been embedding the agency in my business, and very often becoming quite good friends with those people too, because you do get to know each other really well. What was the other part of your question? Favourite apps? I hate being online.
Your Instagram is like all the dog.
Yeah, I would much rather be doing anything else at all than being online. But what did I tell you about my agency? They're my best friends. So yeah, look, I don't do much for myself. Everything, as far as I'm concerned, it's getting information out to the people who need to know, so that they can have a better time when they travel up the Birdsville track, Strzelecki track or Unadada track. That's what it's about for me. It's not my be all and end all, though I will say when I get to Innamincka, the first thing I do is probably just scroll into Insta and make sure nothing's happened while I've been off, or have a look at Facebook to see where the rain's been or not been, or what the roads are doing, or who's doing what and where. That would be very quick, 5-10 minutes. That's it. I'm off and outside and doing something completely different.
They're very like information based. And
Yeah.
Okay, so my tips for working with third parties would be, I guess I work with a lot of influencers, and I find that the best way of managing this is to have like a brief agreement that really sets out like what all the deliverables are, and is just very clear about the message. When I would like to get the content, any articles, imagery, and I just find that that's a really good way of just putting it down, and so everybody knows what's going on. Yeah.
Favorite apps or technology?
So favorite apps. I guess like there's like I love. There's just like a few photo editing ones that I really like. So Snapseed, and there's another one called Lens Distortion, which kind of just puts like really pretty little sun rays and stuff on things. It's a bit of fun. But also at our workplace, we've also been playing around. Well, our designer has with Giphies as well. So we've been creating some Giphies that I guess show up on stories and Snapchat and Tick-Tock as well.
That's fun.
So you're on the ferry, you can get your little "Hey, I'm going to Kangaroo Island" Giphy out, and I just doing things like that to engage with people.
See, I did not know that you edited in sun rays. That is...
Everyone's downloading the app now.
No wonder no one trusts us. As a blogger/influencer and PR myself, I have been in the room at events where I've heard people from agencies grumble about how influencers aren't creating enough content or the content that they want. We want to be making it as easy as possible for these people. Sometimes even if you have good relationships with influencers, you can be asking them, hey, what can we be doing that will make this easier for you? Come on, have a photo wall, have something that is, pretty and aesthetic. There's a lot of people out there that will be able to go at events, but won't be able to take an actual picture because it doesn't fit their feed or whatever it might be. I've also worked with a few fashion brands nationally. We were sending them hundreds of dollars of worth of couture garments, and the owner was like, oh yeah, we'll send it and then they'll post for us, right? And I was like, no, we're going to tell them exactly what we want. We're going to give them examples. We're going to tell them how much we want. Obviously, this is all agreed upon and everything. But make sure that you're defining this information. Again, as an influencer myself, there has been a lot of questions that I've had to ask, and there has been a lot of times when this has not been outlined for me, but it's been an expectation that hasn't been mentioned. If you're doing like a marketing an event or a launch or something and you see someone hanging around, grab their phone off them and take a picture of them for them to upload. Again, that's the PR side of me being a little bit pushier. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do, especially if you want to get that content from people. Again, delivering them the messaging, the handles. When I get reached out to sometimes, when I get media releases, there's not enough information, there's no hyperlinks. I get, hi, at the iconic blonde, love your feed. And I'm like, bin. So there's a few ways to do that, but yeah, I reckon I get it all the time. It's terrible. So be a little bit more personalised in your approach with that. That being said, some of my favourite apps, there's a few of them, so feel free to come up to me afterwards if you want me to send them to you or show you. Canva, as Will has talked all about, but even for little things like dropping your logo on top of a picture just to brand it a little bit extra, or play around with the different templates and branding ideas that you could be inputting. Feed preview for content planning. On Instagram, I used to use and it annoyed me because it kept on not working. So that's one way to get your consumer to move to your competitor. Lens Buddy for photos that take themselves. So you can download the app and you can put your phone up and it will just take a whole bunch of shots one at a time, and you can set the timer. So that's perfect for someone like me who has friends but they're not always around. Kamua, Kamua, for resizing videos. So this is great if you have like a YouTube video, but you want it to sit on TikTok or Instagram, and you want to make sure that you're grabbing just the very vital parts of that video. Answer the Public for engineering content. So you can put a keyword into Answer the Public and it will come back with all the results, all the most popular results that people are talking about or that they are Googling. This is really great if you're creating like blog posts or content that you want to be living there for a while, and to reverse engineer the content that they are searching initially. And finally, a whole bunch of really cool editing apps, like Louise said, Dazcam, Dispo, which Jen got me onto, super love that, Kira, Light Leap, Visco, Adobe Rush for my videos, and Stories Edit by Plannerly.
Love it. There's so many apps. Okay, quickly, can we get a story put up on the Instagram account with a question asking, because I want to know what apps you guys use. Again, I love to
Yeah, I love that.
Can we get a story up there just asking like what your favorite app is, and then you guys can answer that. And then I think after this, I want to put a big list together of all the apps everyone should have on their phone.
That's such a great idea. And I think as well, one of the biggest parts is that there are new apps every single day. I'm finding someone giving me a new recommendation for something new and something cool, and I'm like, oh my God, why have I never had this before? And then again, it might malfunction, or it might be off trend, or the trend that it initially was has passed. So keeping your eye on the industry, keeping the finger on the pulse of what's happening within that space is super important.
I will say one app that I'm very happy with lately is the Canva Mobile App. You know, in the beginning, did anyone ever feel this? It was just like, oh God, the Canva, use it on my phone? No way. I think they've done a good job. I find that it's a lot easier to create that content on the go, especially if for clients I need to add a logo, or we've got a certain look and feel. I can just pop in images, so good for you, Canva. All right, moving on. What do you find are some of the common content creation mistakes? And okay, we'll start with that. What have you found are some of the common content creation mistakes, and then I'll...
Being too staged, not using your own language. And I won't mention the name of the business, but just recently I just saw their feed coming through, and it was just so different, and I thought, they're not like that. Who's doing their marketing for them? What's happening? Knowing full well that the same people still own this iconic business, which is in the outback of South Australia, but their messaging had changed, and I thought, they're not real. It's not happening anymore. It's not quite the place that I remember. So I'd say that's a really big mistake, not to be yourself. I've just said, it's sort of really interesting listening about apps and all of this sort of stuff, and I'm going, wow, yeah, I'm not really into that. I'm quite happy to say that I'm not really into that. I'm quite happy to let other people advise me on that stuff, and that was where, sort of just jumping back to the question about what are common mistakes, I'm really comfortable in my own skin, what I can do and what I can't do. And that's where it comes back to those third parties, be them individual agencies that you work with, and that's where you, as an operator, if you're not into it, absolutely fine. To make sure that you have someone in your operation that knows what they're doing, so that you don't fall into a trap of coming up with a whole different set of words, images, and tone and touch and feel, and the whole bit that you get when you're exploring and looking online about a business that you think, my goodness, that's been a big change. Equally, you can. I see images. I see posts and images that are pretty flat, not interesting, doesn't appeal to anything really. And basically, they're just having a big rant and telling me that I really do need to get into their product and buy it and do it now. And then someone else will come along and they do something really creative and lovely. So I'll sit on that post and look at it a bit more and think, geez, who's helping them? They didn't do it like this before. So that's my perspective as an operator on mistakes in.
And Tick.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I had down, just being authentic and really following on from what Joe was saying. And I really, really hate stock images. So whenever I see Facebook posts and companies are using stock images, it just makes me like cringe a little bit inside. I try to do lots of work with local photographers to try and get some nice imagery to show off our different destinations and locations. And I saw Heidi here today, so we work a lot with Heidi Who Photography, and just having a look through that UGC, but yes, also trying to be a little bit conversational, asking some questions, and then responding to people as well. Our most engaged page is our Murray Princess page, and we have a slightly older demographic, and they love sharing stories and sharing photos, and we really try and encourage that where we can.
Awesome. See, that's bad because I love stock photography. Again, not playing by the rules. I do use Unsplash and Plexels as well, which you guys probably know about, but I love that stock photography. For me, a huge thing is the approval process, which depending on where you're working, it could be super fast, or it could, like when I worked at my last job, take literal weeks. There are even TikToks right now that are talking about how you can tell that a millennials had a really great idea and on a trend that's currently happening, and then it comes out 2 months after the trend was actually a thing, because it took them that long to convince the people within their organisation to actually care and to understand it and to communicate it and to get it to a place where they feel okay and run past legal that they can then essentially post it. A big success example of that for me personally, which I did hear, apparently, when I was in the bathroom, someone said that no one did the bin isolation challenge. Well, I did, and I used a really pink, fluffy dress that I wore at one of the fashion events that I hosted a couple months before, got outside in my driveway, bossed my mum to take a photo of me when I was still living at home, and uploaded it, thinking, oh yeah, this is cool, this is something different, this will make me stand out. It then got picked up. I was at a friend's party, Instagram popped up, Cosmo India has tagged you in a post. And then that steamrolled through Cosmo Hungary and Elle and a whole bunch of other publications where I was being featured next to literal celebrities during isolation. I even got reached out by an agency who was running Facebook's campaigns to be asked to be a part of that, which was crazy. So timing, knowing that trends can disappear so quickly nowadays, and being on the forefront on it, again, having that strategy, having that messaging worked out beforehand is really going to help when you go to your manager and plead your case on why you should do it, when you're talking to someone who is very much in a different demographic than you and absolutely doesn't know what is in that area because you are that subject matter expert.
How many of you guys use stock photography? It's not a bad thing. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Well, I'll touch on that. We're going to talk about budgets versus investments and things like that. But remind me if I don't. We'll come back to that. All right. So in the last 18 months, what has been the most creative piece of content you or your agency has had to create, and what did that mean for your business?
Two things. I'll start with Aussie Travel Code, because that came about as came from the residents of the Flinders Ranges and Outback, alerting us to the fact that there were a lot more people driving through, and there was a lot more irresponsible and destructive behaviours related with this extra travel, and that that came through loud and clear at the end of 2019, before we'd even hit COVID age. So it wasn't new to me. Further north along the tracks, we'd seen some pretty destructive behaviour from four-wheel drivers, or just from people who just didn't really get it. And so the challenge to develop a campaign, a creative, to talk to people who were thinking about travelling to the Outback, or perhaps had already travelled to the Outback, and how they could travel in a more responsible manner. Now, if you look at anything coming out of SATC at the moment, they're talking about sustainable tourism. The Aussie Travel Code is the action part of sustainable tourism. So that was, it was challenging because it was a big, messy problem, and how to draw all the threads of a big, messy problem together into one or two messages, and then market that and get that message out. That was a really tricky part of that campaign, to be on that project, that planning committee, to give the agency that we worked with all the information they needed to do to pull this thing together. And we had a really small budget. We had a budget of 30K, build a brand and get the message out. So that was pretty exciting to be part of that. I'm fairly sure that we've got a substantially more funds being invested in this campaign, but I'm probably not able to announce that yet, but I think watch this space with Aussie Travel Code. And from a business perspective, at Easter time, just about 2 weeks before Easter this year, we were fronting into what we thought was going to be a really busy season with 3 staff. We could not find staff for love or money. Through Seek, through all of the normal channels we'd always used in the past, we couldn't find staff. So a couple of us hit the panic button, especially with those of us in the front line. And so along with our agency, we developed a strategy, and that was just, we changed our language, we changed the image. It was for Innamincka Hotel. And within 2 weeks, we had found not only as many staff as we needed, but we'd found the skilled staff we need. We found the chef, and we found the extra guide and coxswain, because we have guided tours on the Cooper Creek. And so that was a pretty amazing thing. Not everybody in those staff that we recruited all worked, but not one person left because they were not able to do their job. They left because once they got to the Outback, they didn't quite fit with them, and they couldn't fit in with the particular standards that we have. So, and those standards, some of those standards are just all about things that you do on the Aussie Travel Code, like respecting the Outback and doing the right thing by the people who live in the Outback. So that was pretty huge. Only downside to that is, as of yesterday and today, New South Wales has now gone into lockdown. Victoria's dodgy, don't know what's going on here in South Australia. So those beautiful 12 staff that we got, I now don't know whether we've got work for them. So that's as I walked in here today, I was shaking, wondering, wow, we just did this fantastic campaign. We got the people we needed. Our business is sitting pretty. Whoa, it's all maybe going to drop again. Probably will. And so, go home this afternoon and I'll be thinking about, what am I going to do next? What's my strategy going to be to keep the gems that I have?
So with that, I'm going to pivot a little bit here. With everything that's happening currently with New South Wales and Victoria, would you now work with your agency and go, okay, now we need to turn our efforts to getting people in South Australia to come visit, instead of kind of keeping that broad, any kind of marketing activity you do?
Yeah, exactly. That was the exact conversation that I had just before I left to come in to this forum this morning. It was, just give me 12 hours, I need to think about this. I'll come up with a plan and we'll take it from there. But yeah, absolutely with the agency, and that's where I get back to an operator's perspective. I need people like these guys and probably a lot of you out there to assist operators with getting that message out. And you'll never feel alone if you've actually made connection with the right individual or agency for your business.
In terms of the content that I'm probably most proud of, or that's probably the most creative in the last 12 months, I guess on Kangaroo Island last year after the bushfires, everyone was wanting to come over and support the island, which was really great. And then unfortunately we had the changes to our travel restrictions and COVID lockdowns, and we still really wanted to showcase to everyone in South Australia and all of our followers and our audience what was going on the island in terms of the bushfire recovery and how different tour operators and our guides were kind of going with everything. And we were able to give some work to some of our tour guides to film some virtual tours on the island. So they would go out to remarkable rocks and take you on a bit of a guided tour, just short little snippets for like 5 minutes, and just kind of let everybody know what was going on and how the landscape recovery was coming along. Follow some wildlife around, that kind of thing, and yeah.
Were your tour guides nervous to do that? Sometimes I find if you're asking clients or people you work with, or even within your organizations, like, hey, could you do a Facebook Live? People are like, what?
We definitely wanted to do a live, but the mobile reception isn't always great over on parts of the island. It's very remote. They were very nervous at the start, but they gave it a go. They had a few practice runs, and we found like having a few guides go out together. There's only so many selfies you can get. So I guess just, having somebody filming and then changing it up as well. And yeah, I think they really enjoyed it after a little while. Bit of a challenge.
Cool. My favourite campaign was when I was with Pernod and we did the Jacobs Creek Reconnect campaign, and this went out a little bit after that first wave of COVID. It was a national campaign that we did over social and TV, where we engaged our internal employees to take their own videos at home with their friends when they could, to take videos of them reconnecting, so opening the door and waving to their friends, hugging and kissing with a bottle of Jacobs Creek in hand, popping the cork and enjoying the wine together. It was a really cool campaign. One, because we were able to do it with budgets re-looked over. We were able to engage our own staff to feature within that campaign, which made things a lot easier when it came down to the end of it, or convincing management to let us do it. And two, because it was playing on a lot of human emotion. I'm a big believer in marketing, comms and storytelling, and it all should fit into one. It should make people feel a certain kind of way when you're presenting that information, and that made people feel really warm and fuzzy inside. It was my favourite because, one, it played during MasterChef. I was in the ad, and I know my ex-boyfriend watched MasterChef, so it kind of made me happy knowing that he would see me every night. And two, I'm not petty. And yeah, it was just a really quick turnaround as well. We had the idea, we were able to pump it out. It was a short campaign because it was running at the tail end of content that we had initially already had together, which just we wasn't able to show that video anymore of people being too close and stuff like that. We had to really quickly turn a campaign around and shoot it out nationally, and it worked really well. The content was great, the people looked happy, and end of the day our employees felt valued, respected and acknowledged, which I think is another part of comms and marketing.
I have a follow-up question to that. So with that campaign, you got employees involved. So I'm assuming you guys had just like a social media usage guide, the employee handbook. So did you have to come up with something else for employees to?
Yeah, it was a huge deck. It was a huge deck of information with every single thing thought out, including example imagery, material and videos that we had made internally to then put it out there. It is really, really hard to get a near-retirement Aussie ochre bloke in the Barossa to take a video on his iPhone 4. And we made all that information. We were internally going to our employees and talking to them and trying to get them engaged and being, again, that subject matter expert and pulling them in, again, from my PR point of view, being a little bit pushy goes a long way. So guidelines, absolutely, same thing with the influencer stuff. And what Louise was talking about earlier is information is power. It's king in these circumstances when you're asking people to do quite a bit for you. Do the job for them, do everything, get them up to speed other than them standing in front of that phone and pressing record.
Thanks, ladies. All right, next question. We're still on kind of content creation process. There's obviously this idea of evergreen content and timely content. So with COVID, I know things change, but I want to know how far in advance, like how much evergreen content do you produce? Do you look at a strategy and go, yeah, we'll just produce everything for the next 6 months, or is it now there's a few key things that we create and potentially use over the months or year, but how much time are you spending looking for those opportunities to share timely content?
Yep. Usually about every 3 months, we have a look at what our content is, how much of it's going to be evergreen, and how much of it's going to be, just what's actually going on, how much of it's going to come from I'm speaking for Innamincka Hotel here, how much of it's going to come from the manager and a couple of other staff members up there. But yeah, it's every 3 months, and that could change. It just depends on, it might be every 1 month if things, it might, right now, where I'm sitting now, we might have to look at it, as of today, it might be every month. But normally, it would, I think, about every 3 months, and it's a sit-down discussion, series of emails, ideas, sharing, a bit really.
For me, it's a bit of a mix between planned and evergreen. And I guess the beauty about evergreen is you can put it together and then go back, I guess, every 3 to 6 months and just give it a bit of an update. Just trying to do both, where we can.
Yeah, I'll take my experience from working at the Innovation and Collaboration Centre on this one. So we run programs throughout the year, and we don't have a set time when those programs are going to open. On Monday, we actually launched our social enterprise program. So if you have a social enterprise, head to our website and check that out. But essentially, a big part of the industry that we work in, which is innovation and entrepreneurs and collaboration and such like that, is that people don't know what they don't know. So when they're coming to our website, they're wanting to know, okay, what is it that we do? What does the program have? Where can I find information? Our key customer is not someone who's paying us. We're not getting money from this. We're trying to find the right talent. So I think this can, help other people who aren't just in that B2B or B2C kind of market when it comes to gaining sales. But we want to be reverse engineering. As I mentioned, one of my favorite websites to use is Answer the Public. So we can see, okay, what are people typing into Google when they search Adelaide Incubator or Adelaide Accelerator? What can we do to get ourselves up on our Google search rankings to be the people who are answering those questions for them, and then to hopefully get them to consider working with us in the future? So I absolutely agree with the other two ladies here. It is one of those things, evergreen and timely is super important. I look at my evergreen content on a campaign basis.
Thanks. Okay, so now let's move to money. How many of you would love more budget, marketing budget? Not very many of you. What companies do you work for? I'm gonna come work for you. So I know personally, especially over the last 18 months, there's always been like, how big's your marketing budget? How long is a piece of string? It's usually one of the first budgets in my experience that is cut, unfortunately. But I am seeing this shift of businesses and brands going from here's your budget to here's the investment that we want to put in marketing, because we know that especially social media and digital are important channels for us when things like lockdowns happen, but we still need to sell stuff. So I guess my question for you guys is content creation that costs money. How do you guys view budgets versus investments? Pretty broad, but we can talk a lot about this.
Yeah, it depends on what you can afford. It depends on what your balance sheet looks like, but I see marketing as investment. So it's the last thing that I would want to cut from my budget. I did have to withhold a marketing campaign a couple of years ago for a couple of months because things were pretty tight. But your marketing is absolutely, it's very much, it's as important as keeping your lights on.
I guess there are just some things where you do need to invest and you do need to allocate budget towards. It's just working out where you can afford it and where you can put it, and I guess if you need additional resources to communicate the message, just finding how you can do it sometimes.
I think looking over your content and when you're looking to outsourcing to other agencies or freelancers, et cetera, it is imperative to your long-term gain. I think a huge part as well when it comes to marketing for our brands, as I just mentioned, identifying what actually is part of your strategy and what you're wanting to achieve out of this. So as I said, if you're looking for ROI, great, yes, invest, absolutely. If you're looking to gain credibility or to get your profile out there or to do something else, which we absolutely can use as a KPI in marketing, there's a lot of great campaigns that I have done with no budget. No one trusts me with budget yet, obviously. But you can do great thing. I think investing in yourself as well is expense, and that is doing photography courses and doing editing classes and going on Lynda with a Y, which is LinkedIn's educational service, and YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff, I think is incredibly important. Bring in the right people when you need them. As marketeers, upskill as you need as well.
So earlier we talked about stock photography, which I use some stock photography as well. At what point do you think is that tipping point of, okay, we probably should invest in a photographer?
I guess when you're probably using about more than 50%, but I guess with it's hard to say, it changes with every industry, but with tourism, it's just really nice if you can show actual images from people who have been there and just show a different perspective as well, and some of the more the lesser known or unique things about the area.
One of my biggest things that I hate is when I go on someone's website and they're trying to sell me their services and all of their stuff is stock photography. I don't know what their team looks like. I don't know what their office space looks like. I don't know who they are because they've typed in diverse staff into Plexels or Canva or whichever.
Cringe.
And I'm going, well, who are you? And are you real? Because there's no credibility behind that. So investing in photography, having a staff photo day is always nice. The picture up there, I have been asked a million times by people, oh, who took that photo? I bullied my older sister into going outside of florist and I took it and I've used it for ages. So I think that's something to always consider.
For those of you who know me, you know that I always say you need some money for social media ads. Ads, budget, investment. Budget thing, budget line item, or you invest in your advertising campaigns?
Depends on what you want to get out of it. Yes. I discuss budget with agency, but if I need to get a message out, I don't pull back. Just go for it. Go hard. Well, there's no point mucking around. I mean, you get what you pay for. And I'm making it sound really simplistic, I know that. But I don't think it's that hard. If you really need to get your message out, you have to be prepared to spend some money. But you remember that a lot of you probably don't, but the days when we used to spend $5,000 or $10,000 on a full-page ad, how did we ever measure the outcome of that? Now we can measure our outcome in minutes and hours and a day. And then, so I just think it does depend on what you can afford. So you just have to look at your sales. Look at your turnover, and just as you know that you need to spend X number of dollars on insurance and X number of dollars on your utilities or your diesel, whatever it is, allocate some funding in that budget for your advertising and your promotions, and then you take from there and decide on to actually what you want to get out of it.
In terms of allocating funds, I guess I like to see some of our social media channels as an advertising platform, and I don't want to put all the effort into creating the content and putting it up there and then having it not go anywhere and not being seen by the audiences that we really want it to be seen by. So whether that's putting it behind ads or amplifying post content as well and videos, it's just, I think it is a pay-to-play platform, and they're all moving towards that, and just making sure that you allocate it so you do, just get your message out.
All right. Thank you. All right, I want to talk about content distribution now. So obviously, strategy tick, content creation tick, which are all key elements in any kind of social media plan, social media usage. So where are you guys publishing content? Obviously, social media. But do you, like, what other channels are you using besides social, especially when you create content, that you can use in multiple places? I think one of my pet peeves is you have one piece of content and then you just use it that one time and you're like, this is so amazing, we could have used this elsewhere. And then some people don't. So I just want to know, besides social, or if there are any social channels that you kind of prioritize, where else do you distribute any of the content that you create, and the reason behind that?
Our content, I like to think, is pretty consistent across all channels. So Facebook the channels that we use, which is Facebook, Instagram, and then also our website. Our website's pretty important to us. And that would be for Innamincka Hotel as well as the Outback Loop, because that's where we want people to go to leave their mark and hopefully send us an email as well. And so that's probably a real big thing for us, particularly with the Outback Loop. I spend about an hour a day at least answering email messages from people who've picked up on the Outback Loop and will message me and ask me, what will the roads be like in September? When's the best time to travel? Will my van make it? I've got a Mini. Can I drive up the Birdsville track? Those sorts of things. So that's that driving people to our website for now has been a big part of our strategy.
Definitely the same for us as well. So driving people to our website with our content, hosting it there. We have a blog site as well with a lot of evergreen content and things about different campaigns and seasons as well. And then I guess if we can, trying to repurpose it, I guess with some local news type sites as well, perhaps Glam Adelaide or Adelaide, South Aussie with Cozzy, But yeah, I do really like being able to put it out there multiple times across different platforms, especially if it's a great piece that's of interest to got some good information in it.
So my colleagues are sick of me talking about content diversification, which I'm not sure if that's even a thing, but I've made it up.
It is now.
Yeah, it is now, let's say it. And yeah, absolutely, it's identifying your audiences on which platforms and talking to them. Diversify your content. I have absolutely put on similar content on different platforms, but I've told a different story. I've done a different angle. I've hit them with something different on every single platform that I am engaging on, because I want to make people feel like if they are not following me here and here and here, they're missing out. They don't want to miss out on anything. It's COVID. When you're sitting in bed and scrolling on your feed, you want to be eating up every last bit of it. I think as well, we don't do enough investment when it comes to like our profile management on LinkedIn. So I think that's super important when you're maybe writing articles or talking about certain topics that you're trying to position yourself as a thought leader for. I have ghostwritten for a bunch of different Fortune 500 CEOs, and they can start conversations there that can then go back at the very end of the article. By the way, check out our campaign, or check out what we're doing here, and leading people to different areas through those different platforms. Personally, I love Instagram. I am, as I said, really getting on TikTok. I think that's really fun. There's so many great ideas on there. I think as well, more than just we know, like I love Reddit as well. And there's a huge trend of marketers going on Reddit and creating organic content that you can absolutely tell that they have made and that they're trying to get away with it. There's a subreddit called Hail Corporate, which I love, and it's pretty much all the bad marketeers, all of their posts that they've tried to get away with. So I think, yeah, even if you are going to make the absolute most of that content, do something different, make people care. I always say, and excuse my French, why should they give a shit? So when they're on that platform, why does that person in that audience care?
Thanks. I'm just mindful of time, so I might skip over the last question, ladies, sorry. I want to do a bit of a lightning round with you guys. So, I mean, this list started out as like 3 questions. It's now 7 questions deep. So we'll see how far we get. Basically, I'll ask you something. You just let me know quickly what the answer is, and we'll go through it, and then we'll have some time for questions. Raise of hands. How many of you have questions? Then I can gauge how many of these questions I can go through. None of you have questions? 1. Woo, okay. More questions, come on guys. All right, so this one we kind of already answered, but just to do it again. What has been your favorite piece of content that you or an agency that has supported you has created and why?
Aussie Travel Code. And you know why, it's good.
By the way, I just shared that, or I did earlier in the Instagram story. So it's the one that says, if you didn't know, now you know.
We worked with some travel influencers who took their caravan and their family across KI, allies across Oz, and it was just really inspiring and very cool. Really liked watching it.
Oh, one of the things I did for my fashion blog on TikTok was a day in the life of a fashion blogger, and it was from a launch event called, and I always pronounce it wrong, Votella, so I'm not sure if that's correct, it's French. And it got like over 60,000 views on TikTok, so many comments, and probably a whole bunch of people going to the store after they saw that on TikTok.
Love it. Okay, I'm already diverting. How many of you use TikTok? Yeah? Love it. You have to give me a lesson on TikTok. Is there a brand or a post by a brand that you absolutely love and why?
The Batuta Advocate. It's very funny. It's very, very funny. And if you get their newsletter on a Friday afternoon, it just tops off your whole week.
I second that, it's so good. I really like SA Police as well, their social accounts. They're really able to humanise their workforce and talk about some serious issues, but just in a very light-hearted way.
As a storyteller, I love anything that Zoe Foster-Blake touches. I think that she has a very unique tone of voice. I think we can tell by how wide that she has gone as well, that you can teach that tone of voice to people who are working with you, whether it's an agency or in-house, and that they can replicate it to continue to build that brand.
I love that all of you guys have done like big brands. I have one piece of content that I absolutely love and think about often. So years ago, Super Bowl, does everyone know what the Super Bowl is? It's like America's, yeah. The lights went out and Oreo did this like amazing post that was like, you can still dip in the dark because you dip Oreos in milk. I effing love that. I don't know why, but like every time I see it and everyone, you know, people are like, what's a good piece of content? I'm like, that one. It's like a gazillion years old, but I just love it. I wanted to share that with you. It was in my notes. All right. What has been the hardest part of your job in the last year?
Living in the brace position, waiting for the next thing to happen.
Definitely trying to stay up to date with all the COVID travel restrictions.
I would say reactive messaging. So there's a lot going on, not even just in COVID, and that side is kind of being respectful and empathetic to people who are in different circumstances than ourselves, to then other sides of social justice issues that are currently happening. When working for a Fortune 500 company, when you do talk about these issues and you are expected to talk about these issues nowadays, it is extremely hard to get that correct, and it is our jobs to do that.
Okay. Is there anything that you've done in the last 18 months because of COVID or the bushfires that is now a part of your everyday operating rhythm with your business?
You know, living in the brace position.
Definitely tuning into the daily press conferences by Stephen Marshall.
Understanding that if your strategy doesn't go the way that you think it does, it's still okay. I know personally for my own blog, I got so overwhelmed sometimes that I was like, I just can't do this and I can't be bothered doing it. And then when I came back to it a while after, the brand was established to what I wanted it to be, and it was in a place where when I came back, I could kind of just slide in.
All right. Should businesses outsource their content marketing or handle it in-house?
Bit of both.
Agree, a bit of both. Get some external resources when you need it.
Yeah, establish where your talent lies. So I do not know how to do like media buying or whichever. I can do other things. I am a PR and comms and marketing, and that's apparently not enough. So figure out where you need to fill the gaps.
And invest in that. Okay, so tell us what you did at work yesterday.
Well, it wasn't this morning. It started quite early because my dog thinks she's part of my job. So I took her for a walk, started early before daylight, then I reconciled a few accounts, and then I answered a few email messages that came in through Outback Loop. Then I did some research and some more writing for the Tourism Award submission. And then I worked a little bit more on a creative brief we've got with beautiful Heidi Lewis next week up at Innamincka, and a videographer. Heidi's around here somewhere. So yeah, so we've got a little job to do at Innamincka next week, regardless of what happens. And then I got a phone call from someone in government who wanted me to think about what the long-term outcome could be if Kaditanda Lake Eyre became as important to Australia as the Great Barrier Reef is. So that kept me on the phone for about an hour. An hour of my life which I'll never get back. And then I finished the day at the gym. Thank God.
Good on you for hitting up the gym. My day also centred around a tourism awards submission, and I guess spending a lot of the day on Google Analytics and Facebook Insights and Social Blade as well, looking at our performance over the last few years, and looking at the kind of like the really standout things that we've done as well.
As I mentioned, on Monday we launched our social enterprise program through the Innovation and Collaboration Centre. So this week has been working on that, getting the word out. It is for UniSA alumni, staff or students, so making content and reaching out to external sources, reaching out to uni channels, etc. One of our startups in India as well is releasing this week to the media that they gained $2 million in capital. So I've been working on the press release for that came through, I think, the night before at 9:30 p.m. So just working through my strategy, which I created beforehand.
Ah, look at you. All right, last question, because I know there's going to be more than one question to ask the panel when we're done. Tell us your favorite cafe and or bar in South Australia.
Estia at Henley Beach, because of the way they make me feel, and Prairie Hotel in Outback, South Australia.
I thought I'd put my Kangaroo Island hat on. When you first arrive in Penneshaw, there are just some beautiful cafes. So there's the Fat Beagle coffee shop, does best coffee and vanilla slices. And then there's Millie Mae's Pantry as well, which is great for like Instagrammable meals.
So for coffee, Hey Jupiter in around Rundle area because it is super Instagram aesthetic. And for bar, Mary's Poppin', which I'm at every single weekend watching the drag queens perform.
All right, well, that's all I had for today. Thank you guys so much for coming out, doing this. Thank you, Emma, for being our last-minute add-in. All right, so we're going to do questions.
Thank you, all three of you. That was super insightful. I have a question, actually two questions. So one for Emma first, and that is, I know personally I've seen your TikTok from when you started, and you're probably one of the first, I guess, group of people, along with us in Adelaide, to really embrace TikTok. And now I feel personally as if it's started to gain a lot of professional momentum. Initially, everyone's dancing, doing these lame dances. What is this? How do I use this for my business? But now everyone's kind of realizing the power. So in your opinion, do you feel that businesses are now taking TikTok more seriously as a marketing channel and incorporating that into their content strategies?
Absolutely, they are. It is incredible the kind of content that is going out on TikTok. I urge you all to download it and get addicted to it like I am. A great business account that does great TikTok content is Ryanair, which is an international airplane company, but you can tell I don't travel much these days, but they do great stuff. Absolutely. A huge trend that has been going around TikTok as well is that there will be like a younger millennial and they'll say on the screen, I promised my boss that I'd make a TikTok account, everyone interact with this so I don't get fired. And it gets millions of views. To your question, Will, absolutely, there can be content that people are making just for themselves. It is not just, jumping on trends, but it is also video creation. It's credibility building. It's another place for your brand to sit if your audience is there. And I think as marketers, especially, 10 years ago, we weren't taking social media as seriously as a channel. And when these new things do come across our desk, we need to ensure that we are up to date and up to speed with what's going on, because I am seeing a lot of marketers not care and miss out.
Yeah, perfect. So I'm glad that you answered that, because that's what we're seeing as well. And then my second question is for you, Louise. So with C-Link, obviously touching on that kind of wanderlust vibe, you mentioned your influencer campaigns, I think would be awesome for your brand. Have you considered incorporating TikTok into your branding strategy? And I guess from the other point of view, so from Emma's point of view as a creator and a publicist, from a brand's point of view, do you see TikTok as something that you will incorporate into your future marketing strategies, or has it been discussed, if you can obviously divulge that information?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Will. Good question. It's definitely been discussed. Whether I see it being incorporated right now, I'm not too sure. We do have, I guess, a lot of influencers that we're working with that are putting together reels and sharing those on the Facebook videos part of it. But yeah, I definitely need to speak to a bit more of an expert like Emma to get some tips on how to do that. I guess it's always a resourcing thing, and then what you feel comfortable with. But it's definitely like a good option to start playing around with.
Just to add on to that, sorry, I think we might have all heard as well that the owner, I think, of Instagram recently said that Instagram is changing from a platform of image sharing to shopping and videos. So it's really much, again, identifying your audience. I always say a cafe does not need to be on Twitter. If you don't believe that TikTok's part of your strategy just yet, maybe dip your toe in the water with the platform you already have established with Instagram Reels.
Perfect. Thank you, girls.
My name's Rob. I work for Stratco, and every now and again we get an influencer approach us and say, hey, build our patio and we'll post it everywhere for you. I imagine maybe C-Link similar, like, hey, give me a ferry ticket and we'll put it on Instagram. I'm just wondering how you handle those requests, how you evaluate those opportunities, and if you do go ahead with that, how do you make sure you get the most out of that campaign?
Thanks. I think that, we definitely do get quite a few influencer requests, and it's definitely like on a case-by-case basis, having a look through their feed and seeing if it's kind of tying into the messaging that we're looking at promoting at that time and our objectives, and just really having a look and seeing if we think their content is authentic and it fits in with ours at the moment as well. So we don't always go with them, but yeah, it's a good opportunity.
Hello. Maybe you guys are a bit younger and didn't use this platform, but using TikTok and saying how important it is to to be on it professionally and for brands. What do you see the difference of being between TikTok and Vine? So Vine is very similar and it died very quickly. I didn't use it then I only watched Vine for funny things, so I didn't use it as in a brand sense back then, but and obviously not now. But what do you see the difference being? Why did one succeed versus the other?
Good question, hard question. I was on Vine for a little bit and it was fun. It was very community oriented. That was what the platform was for. And I think it was also before a lot of brands really started not even doing their own content on their own pages, but even paying for like ads and such through that newsfeed that would come through. TikTok is here to make money. It's got a little bit of a different strategy itself. To answer the question, I'm unsure right now. And I'm sure with a lot of platforms that their strategies and how they approach things will change, and it's assessing what's best for you on that basis. Sorry for the vague answer.
Just wondering about being able to report on outcomes from not necessarily campaigns, but just your normal social. If you're not, apart from reach and hits back to the website, you know, sentiment, etc., how else would you explain to your higher ups that something is working really well when you have nothing concrete? How do you explain that? What words would you use to say when you have no evidence to support it?
I would find stats and data. So let's say it is a campaign, we have views, we have referral links and backlinks, maybe for a PR campaign. We have people who are coming onto the site through our funnel journey. There's a lot of stats and data. I would be walking into a room before that conversation is taking place and understanding what KPIs we are reporting on to upper management before that campaign does eventually go through. And then I would be in that meeting telling them all the great things. In the last month, for example, our LinkedIn page got 100 extra followers. Does that mean anything to my boss? Probably not. But I would say, well, it means that we're getting a lot more outreach. It means the people are taking notice. We are building our brand. We're getting our brand salience up, which is something super important. Marketers might know it's from the Ehrenberg Bass Institute of Marketing Science, going through these academic theories and other conversations that are taking place in the space and linking it back to that. And if you've done all of that and they're still questioning you, have a cry.
Like I said right at the beginning of this talk, I don't have anywhere near the experience that most of you guys have. But I think that really good campaigns and really good marketing can give you something that money can't buy, and that's your reputation. And I think that's really important to remember that. And that's an outcome that's really difficult to measure, but you will see it in your bottom line, maybe not right now this very minute, but in 12 months' time. And I'm seeing that with Innamincka Hotel.
Do you mind if I have an answer to that question? Oh, okay. So obviously we didn't really touch on reporting today, but I think that could be a whole other session itself. But for me, when it comes to reporting and trying to do that, yes, social media is important, and I need to tell the higher-ups or a board or management like why it is. Some of the things that you need to have in place, it's not just, oh yeah, we have Instagram and Facebook. Make sure you have Google Analytics. Make sure you're tagging your content, all of those types of things so that you can create a cohesive report that's closing the loop. That's, you know, okay, campaign 1 was running brand awareness. We got this many people to the website. We were then able to remarket, and then we got this many people to download an ebook or sign up to a newsletter or whatever. And attributing that all back to the campaigns that you're running, anything that you're running on Facebook. So I think that's really important. I know that some people go, oh, it takes a bit of time, but set up your dashboards in Google Analytics, set up a template spreadsheet you use to tag content, be consistent with it all, and I think you'll see that you can start contributing or attributing the effort that you're putting in social is helping the overall business goals. But on the other side, you could think that, you know, execute a campaign and go, yeah, maybe that didn't work that great, so we'll just make a note not to do that. But there may be elements of it that you've been able to track along the way that you want to try with other other campaigns. Rabina's giving us the, oh, do we have any more questions? One more?
Coming from local government, like Bank SA, we're quite rigid and traditional, and I've pitched Reels and Tick-Tock to them before, and they're not quite sold on it being worth wasting ratepayers' money on and time. What strategy would you take, because we're not fun and all that, like how would you pitch it to them, or do you think it's worth just sticking to the platforms that we already use and focusing on those?
I guess it kind of ties back to the audience that you're looking to communicate with, and I guess whether your customers are on there and you think that that's going to make them engage with your brand and think about it in a different way. That's like, I guess, one way to look at it.
On top of that, I would first of all be walking into my boss with a presentation that's all lovely, all made, and gives background information and stats and data as marketers are our wielding sword when it comes to convincing higher-ups to get this stuff over the line. I would also be saying, I am the subject matter expert here. I need you to listen to me, which is something that is extremely hard to do. But it's more than just uploading a video on a platform and seeing how it goes. Again, there are aspects of credibility that is gained by having your content in different areas. You are exposing yourself to a different audience. As Will said earlier, it is maybe something that you can do as an educational aspect of creating content that isn't, as I said, hot and sexy, but it is giving people more information that you might have on your website, but bring it to the forefront and be making it extra in their face. And that is the fun part about those video content. Video content is the future. We've been saying that for the past 3 or 4 years now, and convincing people to get there is hard, but mapping it out for them, doing the hard work for them, maybe pitching them a few ideas, storyboarding those ideas before you go into that meeting, getting it all together and just being like, hey, trust me, let's have a go. The worst thing is that it doesn't work and you delete the platform, and for some brands that might not be available to them. For some brands it might be.
Just hire Emma. Hire Emma to do your pitch. All right, that's all the time. What? Or Will, yeah. Or Will. Lots of people you could hire to do that pitch for you. That's all the time we have for this. Thanks again, ladies. I hope you guys enjoyed the panel. We have a little thank you gift before you go, all sticking around during lunch. Yep, so if you have any more questions or want to have a bit more of a chat, you can grab one of the ladies. I will now hand it off to Rabina.